From Mamma Mia, welcome to The Spill, your daily pop culture fix. I'm Ksenia Lukic.
And I'm Taylor Strano.
So today on the show, we're going to be talking about Prince Andrew being stripped of his royal title and what that kind of means for the royal family. Taylor is going to take us through all of that. Plus, Oasis have taken over Melbourne and we absolutely love all the footage. And seeing the brothers together after 15 years is absolutely crazy. And if you don't know their history, we're going to take you guys through it. There are some crazy moments. But first, Halloween was over the weekend on Friday night and the celebrities really took us out with their costumes.
I love Halloween for no other reason than just to see the lengths that celebrities will go to dress up and entertain us, right? Like, I personally don't partake, Ksenia, I know that you've got kids. Maybe it's something that's worked its way into your world.
I love a costume. I love dressing up, and I definitely did it a lot more when I was younger. New York Halloween is probably one of the highlights of my life. It was just such a fun moment. Now that I've got kids, it's more about them. So the kids went trick-or-treating. We had a great time. But for me, the celebs this year, there are a couple of really great costumes and a few controversial ones as well. So I feel like we should start with the Queen of Halloween, Heidi Klum.
Absolutely, of course, Heidi Klum. If Mariah Carey is the Queen of Christmas, Heidi Klum can have Halloween all to herself. I don't know how you ever top being E.T. or a worm, but it feels like she did this year. She teased it for a couple of days ahead of time. And then we finally got that reveal, Ksenia, which of course was
Medusa. Great costume, but she kind of took it to another level. She didn't do sexy Medusa. She did terrifying Medusa. Now, apparently she's been wanting to do this costume for years, and it took 5 months to actually get this costume organised. I also love that her husband, Tom Cowlitz, was dressed as a soldier who had turned into stone because, as we all know, if you look at Medusa in the eyes, you turn to stone. The only thing I think about Heidi Klum's outfits for Halloween is the impracticality of it all. Every single time I see her, I'm like, how is she going to the toilet? How is she breathing? How is she eating? How is she drinking? Like, she's not going to be having a very good time in these outfits.
Isn't that so ironic, though? Because we say that every time, like, the Met Gala rolls around of, like, how is Kim Kardashian possibly going to see out of that outfit or sit down, and the lengths that celebrities will go to for fashion. I love that Heidi Klum commits to the bit, even when it is for something as fun and silly and frothy as Halloween costumes.
But I was thinking about her worm look. And
she was on the floor.
She couldn't even she didn't have arms. She couldn't stand. Like, I can't imagine that being a very fun few hours. Like, I'm almost imagining, does she take her costume off when she gets inside and like put something a little more, like slip into something a little more comfortable? But I remember once I actually interviewed Heidi Klum and I was like, can I come to your Halloween party? And she's like, yeah, for sure. You should definitely come. I never got the invite.
Oh my God,
No.
Ksenia, you just have to rock up. Like, no, Heidi told me I could come. It's all good.
She said I could come. Do you have any favorites?
I do. Obviously, like, there were photos and opportunities aplenty across the weekend. One that really stood out to me is Kyle MacLachlan, who, like, has just recently, I feel like, discovered social media and is, like, being an absolute menace on there. He and Rachel Sennett recorded an episode of his podcast called What Are We Even Doing? They did the entire episode. It is so chaotic, dressed as Queen Clarice Rinaldi of Genovia and Anne Hathaway's character, Mia Thermopolis from The Princess Diaries. They do it in like full cosplay, so serious. And there's these great clips of them like lip syncing to the bits in the film. I just love Kyle MacLachlan. I love everything that man does. He can do no wrong in my eyes.
That is so iconic. Did you see Ed Sheeran as Pennywise?
How funny. Like, people were making the comparison about like this redheaded man wandering around terrifying children. And it's like, did he actually dress up? He looked so good.
It was so scary. I actually don't like really scary Halloween costumes. Maybe I'm a bit of a wuss. Like, I know Halloween is supposed to be like a little bit scary, but I can't. I'm too much of a wuss. I don't love it.
Well, how do you feel about life imitating art, or rather art imitating life? Because, of course, one of the most controversial costumes this Halloween is of one Miss Julia Fox, who decided to dress up as Jackie Kennedy, but Jackie Kennedy basically immediately after JFK was assassinated in the pink suit. She had the beautiful makeup and hair done, and then obviously all of the bloodstains.
Yeah, so a lot of people thought this was in very poor taste. She got quite a lot of backlash for it. She did actually respond on her Instagram saying that her intent with the costume was not to mock her, but to show that this was such a mark of strength for Jackie Kennedy and like kind of paying tribute to her almost, which I kind of understand. So the reason that Jackie Kennedy didn't take off her suit is, you know, she was offered to sort of have a change of clothes when Lyndon Johnson was inaugurated on the plane on Air Force One. But she said that she didn't want to change. She wanted people to see the blood. Obviously, she was in a state of trauma and a state of shock. So I kind of see where she's coming from there, but a lot of people thought it was in very poor taste. So Jack Skolsberg, who's actually John F. Kennedy's grandson, has made a comment about this and said that it was disgusting, desperate, and dangerous for her to wear this costume. What are your thoughts on it, Taylor?
Look, I've gone back and forth on this a lot. We often talk about with celebrities, and when it comes to things like costume parties, where is the line, right? And for me, the line is cultural appropriation. Like, I don't think you should be dressing up as another person's culture. It's not your costume. I can see on a personal note why this would offend people. However, this was such an important moment in time. It's less about Jackie Kennedy. It's more about the moment that it represents and what that represents, right? And you can look into this in as many ways as you want. I think up until about this morning before we started recording this podcast, I was very much like, I don't think it's that serious. I'm pretty okay with it, until somebody made reference to another recent public assassination that had happened, which is of one Charlie Kirk. And regardless of how you feel about that man, that is something that happened in the same political sphere this year. And I don't think that would be an appropriate outfit to wear to Halloween. So the jury is still out for me. What about you?
I just feel like I want to have like fun on Halloween. You know, like I don't want to be making a political statement on Halloween. The joy for me is seeing people have a great time, dress up as in fun costumes, wild costumes, extravagant costumes. That for me is the joy of it. Like I look at like G Flip and Chriselle who went as like Barbie and Ken, and you know G Flip's in a full Barbie costume and Chriselle's dressed up as Ken. Like that's the kind of joy I want to see on Halloween. I don't really want to see like political commentary happening behind it. I don't think it's necessary.
My last one to throw in as a favourite, and people who were able to take the joke and run with it, is Cathay, the girl group out of LA.
I loved this moment.
This was so fun. And like talk about being self-aware. Basically earlier this year, they were asked on a red carpet what their favourite Mariah Carey video clip was, and none of them could basically name one. So they've taken that meme, which has gone so viral of them, they flipped it on their head, and this year every single member of that band rocked up in an iconic Mariah Carey video clip look. It was so good.
That is how you successfully do like a interpretation of a bad moment. You know, you take it on the chin, you make fun of it, you satirize it, and you enjoy it. My favorite, actually, last one from me. Lizzo as a 24-carat Labubu. It was so good.
That sound from the TikTok just playing in my head of that very posh British lady's accent. It's so good.
I love her.
Okay, so obviously the biggest news story right now is coming out of the UK, and it's something they kicked off on Friday, but actually has a far deeper history than that. Ksenia, we're talking about the royal family. Before we go any further, where do you find yourself on the spectrum of royalist or loyalist?
I love the lore of the royals. I love the history of the royals. I find it really fascinating. However, in terms of their like place in society today, I'm pretty indifferent about it. I just find the history of it very, very interesting. But I really wanted to do this one today because Taylor, you are obviously a host of The Quickie, and you know so much about this particular story. So Prince Andrew has been stripped of his titles, and while it's obviously a news story, there's also definitely an entertainment aspect to it because the royal family has changed so much over the last decade, particularly after the death of Queen Elizabeth II. So I want to kind of start with a question for you is like, what are the implications of this and why did this happen to Andrew?
Yeah, so to go forward, we must go backwards, right? And I'm going to try my best to surmise this as neatly as I can. But essentially, this stems back decades where Prince Andrew, aka King Charles's baby brother, also known as Queen Elizabeth II's favourite child, and I put that in quotation marks because, as we know, you shouldn't have favourite children. But alas, he was the baby, he was very well loved. Prince Andrew and his friendship with a man named Jeffrey Epstein, who we all know as a convicted sex offender, he was jailed for that, sex trafficking, the whole nine, and who then later died in prison by suicide.
Oh, well, if you believe the internet, there's definitely some conspiracy theories surrounding that one.
Okay, we do not have time to go down the Reddit, K-hole today. Nonetheless, I move on. So basically, they've had this friendship for years. There was that infamous BBC interview where Prince Andrew was caught out in so many lies. He lied about how long he was friends with Jeffrey Epstein for. He also allegedly lied about a whole bunch of interactions with one particular woman. Her name was Virginia Giuffre. Now, Virginia Giuffre is one of the most well-known people who has accused Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew of some pretty serious things, including stuff like sexual abuse. Her book came out this year. It's called Nobody's Girl. It's a memoir. And unfortunately, Virginia Giuffre also did die by suicide in March 2025. In that memoir, she unpacks a pretty harrowing life from her very early days up until meeting Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and then, of course, meeting and interacting with Prince Andrew. Now, this is all alleged, of course. Prince Andrew has never been held accountable or prosecuted for any of these crimes, but it has led to a definite mood change of how we feel towards Prince Andrew. And that's been seen in the last couple of weeks sort of reach a critical boiling point, right? A few weeks ago, Prince Andrew handed back his Duke of York title. So famously, he's the prince, but he and Sarah Ferguson were the Duke and Duchess of York. Sarah Ferguson is his ex-wife. He handed that title back. And when we say he handed it back, that's a beautiful thing about the royal family. For a bit of PR and damage control, we suspect that Andrew was asked politely to hand it back, and then the way that it was perceived by the media is that he did it of his own accord. But that really wasn't enough. People were not happy that that was the extent to which the royal family were basically acknowledging that there's probably been some foul play here, which brings us to last Friday, Ksenia. We get a statement from Buckingham Palace. It's like 8:30 in the morning on Friday. I'm, typing away on my computer, getting ready for what I think is going to be a pretty easy Friday at work. And then Buckingham Palace speaks and the world sort of shuts down for a minute. They released the statement essentially saying that Prince Andrew, a prince no more, he will now be Mr. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He's getting booted out of the Royal Lodge. Sarah Ferguson's also getting booted out. She's on her own. He's got to find somewhere to live. But luckily, his brother will be paying his rent.
I mean, I just think this is crazy. And it's interesting because they don't say that this is because of the Virginia Giuffre allegations, but there is a little bit of an undercurrent there. Like, it's insinuated that that's the reason why.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because while they don't say it in as many words, what the statement from Buckingham Palace does say is their majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. So that's how they end a statement, saying Prince Andrew's basically been given the royal boot. If you read between the lines, so be it. But again, I just want to stress all these allegations against Prince Andrew are still alleged.
It's a very royal way to kind of put it. It's like, we're kicking him out. This is the reason for it, but we're not going to say that because he hasn't been convicted of it or anything. It does feel a little bit too little, too late. And it does feel like a lot of the public, like the British public, are not happy about this. And more widely, the Commonwealth are not happy about this. Like, what are people's responses to this and what has it been like for people?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? A YouGov poll of British people found that 79% of people backed the king stripping Andrew of his prince title. 87% of those people felt like it was the only option. And that's coming after he'd already handed back all these other titles, right? So he was no longer the Duke of York. He was still a prince. And at this point, we were like, well, he's a prince by birthright. Yeah, like he's going to die a prince regardless of what happens. And with that comes all of the trimmings and the luxuries and safety of royal life. But the king's basically booted him out on his own. Interestingly, though, Ksenia, 58% of people think that the royal family moved too slow when it comes to this. So I think what happens now will be really interesting to see. We've said that obviously all of this is alleged. Prince Andrew has never been prosecuted for any of these crimes, and one could say that that may have something to do with the fact that he was a royal member of the family, right? He was a working royal up until recently. He enjoyed all of the luxuries and the securities of being part of the royal family. And now that the king has taken all of that away from him, time will only tell.
So the last time a royal was stripped of their title, and actually stripped of the title, happened in 1919, which was Prince Ernest Augustus, who was a UK royal and also the Prince of Hanover. He had his British title removed for siding with Germany in World War I. But a lot of people are comparing this to like Meghan and Harry and Princess Di, but it's not really the same thing.
No, I don't think we can compare treason charges with a couple of people handing back their titles, which is essentially what Harry and Meghan had done. And then when we talk about Princess Diana, obviously she was divorced from Prince Charles. She was the people's princess, right? She relinquished her Royal Highness title as part of the divorce agreement in 1996.
Have you heard about the stories about Prince Andrew and his teddies on his bed?
Oh, no, but I don't know if I want to know. Do I want to know? Are you gonna give me the clean version?
Apparently he used to get his staff to like line his teddies up on his bed. It's like these rumored stories about him. Like that whole icon of him being like the favorite and the little baby boy, and like his image has really been tainted. Do we know what Prince Andrew has said about all this?
No, I think in true royal fashion, never complain, never explain, I doubt we will actually hear from Prince Andrew maybe ever again. Like, I think he just has to go now and live a quiet, private life. In saying that, though, his two daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, will retain their royal titles. They are both still princesses and they haven't been stripped. His ex-wife, though, like we mentioned, Fergie, Sarah Ferguson, no longer the Duchess of York, and she's actually been booted out of the Royal Lodge with Andrew, so we don't know where she's going to end up now.
One other question that I've got, he actually is still in line for the throne, isn't he?
Yeah.
How does that work?
This is like one of those amazing old-timey archaic British things. So he's still technically 8th in line for the throne.
It's crazy.
To remove him from that line of succession, though, it would require things like an act of parliament. You'd need to get consent from Commonwealth realms. Like, it would have to go through so many layers. I think the fact that he's number 8 in line behind Harry and Meghan's kids, we're pretty safe in assuming that he will not assume the throne.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. Do you know what's really interesting to me? I feel like him losing his titles, I think out of all members of the royal family, he's the one that would be most bothered by it. The reason I say that is because if we look at the Queen's children, apart from Prince Charles, or King Charles now I should say, the other royals, particularly like Princess Anne's children, they didn't actually give their children royal titles. Like Princess Anne's children don't have those royal titles. They specifically didn't want to give them to them, whereas Prince Andrew did.
Well, you know what they say, Ksenia, heavy is the head that wears the crown, right? So I imagine that by not giving your children this, we want to call it a privilege and a luxury, you're also shielding them from what can be a very controlled life.
Absolutely. It's just funny to me. Not funny because the whole situation's not particularly funny, but for someone like him, I've seen all these memes about like him like throwing toys out of the pram and like, you know, being a bit of a brat and being like a toddler. Like that is the public perception and description of him. And the fact that he's been stripped of these titles is really interesting. And just today, at time of recording, he lost his final titles, which were these military titles.
Yeah, it's really not coming up Andrew in any which way now. I spoke to royal commentator Victoria Arbiter about this over on the Quickie this morning. If you want to listen there, she has these really good insights as well to what this actually means for the royal family, the remaining royal family moving forward and into this new like era of transparency too.
Okay, well, look, let's try and brighten it up a little bit. Like, do you think that the change in the royal family, like we've had Meghan and Harry, you know, leaving, like the royal family really seems to be like disintegrating. What the hell is going on?
Look, I don't see an issue with this. We're moving into ever more modern times, and both King Charles and Prince William have said on the record that they are moving into this new era of royal family, a slimmed down, trimmed down monarchy, and also a more transparent monarchy as well. Like we've seen that Andrew has been so protected by the safety net that is being a working royal and being a prince. And now that that's been taken away from him, who knows what crimes he may have to face, alleged crimes he may have to face. And I think that's good. There's transparency, not just in that, but in how the royals make their money, who's paying the rent on all their big, gorgeous estates. I think this is a great next step in the right direction for the monarchy.
But he still gets all his stuff paid for by King Charles.
He does, but that's also that's the next step in the transparency era, right? Is like, well, how does King Charles have that money and who's funding that?
Well, the land, it's their land. It's the amount of land that they have. That's where most of their money comes from. Like the taxpayers obviously have, pay for things, but the majority of the monarchy's money comes from their land holdings.
Well, yeah, it's called the Royal Duchy, and how money comes into that is what I think people will now be paying attention towards, hopefully. Like I said, this is just part one. It's like a domino falling, right? And hopefully this domino effect has people starting to question and then maybe enact some change into how the royal family generate wealth.
Okay, Taylor, and where's he going? Is he going to be staying in a hostel somewhere?
No, I don't think backpackers really is the right vibe for the former Prince Andrew. He will be moving out of the Royal Lodge. He's got a little bit of time to vacate, but then he'll be put up on a private accommodation on Sandringham Estate, and the bill for that will be footed by King Charles. As far as Sarah Ferguson goes, essentially, like, she's out on her own. We don't really know where she'll go. I'm sure, though, she'll probably take up refuge with one of her children.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Princess Eugenie and Princess Beatrice will take in their mother, I imagine. Look, I think it's good. I think it's great that the royals have finally taken action, but I do think it definitely is the start of something.
Yeah, look, whether or not these allegations come to fruition, I think it's important to note that the monarchy's hand has been forced by the memoir of an ordinary girl. And that's exactly what Virginia Giuffre's brother and sister-in-law put a public statement out after Buckingham Palace had said that she was an ordinary girl and she took down a prince. So do with that information what you will.
Okay, so the highly anticipated Oasis reunion tour has taken over Australia, and they just had 3 shows in Melbourne. They're going to be playing in Sydney later on this week. I have been obsessed with all the footage from this. There's been quite a lot of stuff around these shows. My favorite was after one of the shows, people doing this massive sing-along in Melbourne. They're all singing Don't Look Back in Anger, and it was just like this amazing community moment. We had Noel and Liam making fun of the Aussies, how they said anger. They're like, anger, not anger. Which is funny because they've got Manchester accents, so I don't quite understand that. But,
Truly.
They have just had the most incredible tour here. If you don't know much about Oasis, I want to kind of go through some of this band's history. Taylor, how familiar are you with Oasis?
I'm very familiar with Oasis, Ksenia. I'm a huge fan. I worked in the music industry for a very long time, and I remember the day that this tour was announced. I remember when they posted it on X that, the guns are down, fire has stopped, it's time to bring the band back together, and the sense of joy that was felt across the world is almost unparalleled.
These brothers, though, Liam and Noel, 15 years this feud has lasted. I mean, they took sibling rivalry to a completely new level. So a lot of the lore around Oasis is the fact that these brothers had a really, really intense relationship. So I really wanted to focus on the Australianness of some of the lore, because I think that that's kind of some of the greatest stuff. Now, back in 1998, the boys were on a flight the whole band was on a flight to Australia. Their first stop was Perth. They were going from Hong Kong to Perth, and they were on a Cathay Pacific flight. Now, the boys were so disruptive on the flight, Liam earned a lifetime ban from Cathay Pacific. So other passengers on the plane, because this isn't a private flight, other passengers on the plane were saying that they were throwing scones, smoking in the plane, like blatantly smoking in the plane. The pilot basically eventually had to come out and say, if you don't stop now, we're going to be like, I'm going to turn this car around and we're going to land it. Like, they were absolutely debaucherous.
There is literally nothing more English than like throwing scones. Like that's the peak Englishness. But also I love that they've sustained this sibling rivalry, like you said, this anger towards each other and just like the general outside world for essentially like 25 years. It is so fantastic and so silly.
The reason that they broke up, the biggest story was back in 2009, Noel left the band. And the big turning point was they were backstage at the Rock en Seine festival in France. And according to Noel, they were having this massive argument. Liam took a guitar, wielded it like an axe and smashed it on the ground. And Noel was like, I'm done. And that was it. That was the end of it. But before this, other members of the band had started leaving. There was a lot of disruption between these boys. Another of my favorite stories is on the same trip to Australia back in 98. When they were in Brisbane, 20-year-old Benjamin Jones wanted to get a picture with Liam and Noel. Liam got really irritated at him because he was wielding a camera in his face. So Liam puts him in a headlock, headbutts him, and left him with a broken nose and severe swelling. So Jones then filed a police report against Liam, which is insane. He actually went up before the court.
I was going to say, can you imagine being in the court that day? You're just like a regular sort of circuit level judge, and then in walks one of the Gallagher brothers, and you're like, oh, this is not like any other day at work. We've got a rock star amongst us. I feel like with Oasis, it's one of those bands that obviously their music stands up on its own, right? Like it is that they are one of the most integral bands to Britpop of the late 90s, the early 2000s. What they have made is incredible and cannot be discounted. However, on the flip side, and I feel like this would irritate them to no extent, is next to the music, the lore around them and the spat they created between the two brothers is just as big or just as well known as the music they made and put out in the 90s and 2000s. And I imagine that would irritate them to no end.
I don't know if it irritates them. I feel like they really embrace that bad boy behavior. I mean, who do you think was crazier, Noel or Liam?
Well, it depends on what year it is, right? Like they have so many good zingers and quotes about each other. One of my favorite of all time, and it's just one of the greatest things that anybody has ever said in an interview. I mean, Ksenia, you've interviewed a lot of musicians. I've interviewed a lot of musicians. A lot of them, they make beautiful music. They do these incredible pieces of poetry and art. And when you speak to them, that's not always what you receive on the other end. One of the greatest interview responses of all time is Noel talking about Liam in 1994. He says of his brother, he's like a man with a fork in a world of soup. And if that doesn't encapsulate incredibly the relationship that they've had across the last 30 years, I don't know what does.
Noel has some real zingers. He's so funny. In that same tour to Australia, because I basically read this whole Rolling Stone article on their tour to Australia. It was absolutely fascinating. There's this great clip of Noel talking about their rock and roll days. I want to play it for you here. Have a listen.
Telling your kids, man, if you're depressed, buy yourself a television, get the nearest hotel, open the window, throw it in the car park. It's done. That's your best cure for depression. The drugs and all that. Go and see the doctor. Tell them, Dr. Noel told you. By the way, if anybody's watching from a hotel that we're about to check into, I was joking on that last statement there.
I love that. Their sense of humour is so dry, and I feel like so many times people would have taken that as serious and it was just them taking the piss.
Well, and I just feel like the band is fueled by both taking the piss and anger at the same time in equal measure. Like I can never tell if they are being dry, blunt, or if they are actually genuinely angry to be here. And that's the best part about Oasis.
Another great fact I wanted to share with you. So Wonderwall, which is the song every 15-year-old boy is learning on his guitar for the first time and serenading all of the girls while they all swoon or cringe, depending on how you go. Wonderwall actually didn't hit number 1 in the UK. It only got to number 2. But in Australia, it topped the Triple J Hottest 100 in 1995.
Yeah, I mean, that makes so much sense, right? Like Oasis in that period when they're at the absolute peak, like 95 is when What's the Story Morning Glory came out, which is the album that Wonderwall is on.
Champagne Supernova.
Don't Look Back in Anger. Like they're all on there. All the big ones that you can name instantly, they're all on that record. So it makes it comes as no surprise to me that was number 1 in that year. Also 95, great bloody year to be born, just quietly. But the fact that it didn't hit that much success in the UK is so funny to me, but that also shows the demand of how good music was at that time in the UK too.
I mean, it did get to number 2, but it's just interesting to me because I think if you ask people, give me an Oasis song, Wonderwall is kind of probably the first one most people would think of, I would guess.
Do you want to know what number 1 was in 95?
Go tell me.
It's a song called Unchained Melody, White Cliffs of Dover by Robson and Jerome.
Really?
Ksenia, you're looking at me like, who the hell are these people? Essentially, Robson and Jerome, 2 famous British TV stars. And this is what happens when you take TV stars who end up doing music. They cover some very famous songs like Unchained Melody, Cliffs of Dover, sure. Mash it together in a cover. Of course, that shoots to the top of the charts.
That's really disappointing.
You can write
I'm really
a letter.
sad
I'm sure
about
they'll
that.
retract it, 30 years later.
Am I remembering incorrectly? Wonderwall was definitely on the OC, wasn't it?
Oh, that's popped up in so many moments in pop culture, like completely.
It's just such an iconic song, even though it does make me laugh because it's like the first song every teenage boy played. You know, that running gag. Do you have a favourite Oasis moment that I've missed?
Oh, I don't know if I have a favourite moment that you've missed. I think just in general, the whole back and forth to sustain this anger, and I say anger like in a loving, light sort of way. Like this is one of the longest standing relationships. Obviously they're brothers, the band goes without saying, but to sustain this, I want to say faux hatred towards each other for 30 years, it has become the band's brand, and to build this incredible success off it. I think that's the most impressive thing about Oasis, because when you take that away, all you have left is the music, but the music stands up on its own, right? But that is to say, I do love just watching all the spats that they have on Twitter and have had across the years in music publications and on television. It's just so delicious.
So they actually have said that they haven't done many interviews while they've been in Australia because they don't want the media to try and tear apart their relationship. It's like their relationship is hanging on by, they've only just connected it. They've just started to sort of tie it back together. The last thing they need is the media trying to dig into it and snapping a relationship that they've finally kind of gotten back together. So I think that's actually very mature of them, unexpectedly.
I think it's very self-aware. They know they don't need any more pushes to break that bond. It would just take one dirty look in the wrong direction, I reckon. Okay, Ksenia, let's wrap this up. Look, I'm really glad to see Oasis Down Under. I've had a whole bunch of friends go already. I'm so looking forward to seeing what they do at the Sydney shows. And as much as I love seeing these 2 brothers embrace on stage, deliver these amazing performances, let us not forget that Noel once said to Liam he doesn't listen to Liam's solo albums as he hates the sound of his voice, and that he liked his mum up until she gave birth to Liam. And I think that underpins everything we need to know about Oasis.